The linear question. What I mean by a linear question is it's going to be this. It's going to look like something like this one here. Okay, it has fraction. I'm going to rearrange this question to look like another question to make it a bit easier on you. Okay, I'm going to make the question look like this. So ignore the top black one. Okay, I want you to look at the bottom one here. Okay, now. Can anybody in class tell me how would you go about starting this off? You have a fraction multiplied by everything that's in the bracket. Can anybody tell me what would be a good way to start that off? So multiply it out and then put it all over 2. So you're going to get 12x plus 6 all divided by 2. Okay, that remains is 2 over 3 equals 5 times 3x minus 4 all over. Okay. Now you're at the stage where you have to give them all the same denominator. What would you recommend that denominator to be? If you don't know how to do this, what you do is what's called the lowest common multiple at junior cert. You count up in 6s, 6, 12, 18. Count up in 3s, 3, 6, 9. Count up in 2s, 2, 4, 6. Circle the lowest number that's in all three lists. It's 6, okay? So that's how you find out the common denominator is 6. How do you turn 2 into 6? What you need to do on top? Multiply by 3. How do you turn 3 into 6? Multiply by 2. And the top one? Multiply by 2. What happens to the bottoms? They all cancel. In the same way, 1/5 plus 2/5 equals 3/5. If you cancel all the 5s, 1 plus 2 still equals 3. So that's why you're allowed to cancel those denominators. That makes sense? Provided there's an equal sign. Okay? Now, what we're going to do next is multiply out 36x plus 3 times 6, 18, 2 times 2, 4 equals 15x minus 20. Then bring all the x's to one side and all the numbers to the other. Well, just we'll shorten it down first. Everybody knows, so just added the 18 and the 4 together, right? Bring the 15 over the other side, what happens then? And then on the other side? Minus 22. It goes over the other side. 36 minus 15. 21 equals minus 42. This means multiply by 21. Therefore, when the 21 crosses over the other side, what happens? Divide by 21. Not divide by minus 21. Remember, multiplication turns into division. Okay? So you don't do anything with plus or minus in a case like this. And then x equals minus 2. Okay, that's how you do this type of question. Now, one thing I want you to note from this is that if you were to have a regular number, like, do you know why we had a fraction? 2 over 3, yeah? Imagine we had a regular number, like the number 5. What would you do in this case? Call it 5 over 1 and then multiply top and bottom by to get the same denominator. I'm obviously telling you that for a reason, right? Right. So that's one type of question you might want to be familiar with. Now, another type of question would be one like this. Solve this equation. Can anyone in the class tell me how would you go about solving an equation like this? Dennis.
Bring the 2 over to the 1.
Not necessarily. Let me come at this another way. You're right. Okay. Let me show you another one. Okay. If I gave you a question like this, 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 plus 1 over 7. Okay. Most of you would try the old school way. You go, all right, what's the common denominator? You'd count up in 7s, and you keep counting up in 7s until you find a number that is divisible by 2 and 3. That'll be your common denominator. Now there's another way of doing this. Another way of doing this is just whatever denominator, you pick the denominator of 2. And you look at all what denominators does 2 not have underneath it. It hasn't got the 3 and the 7. So you put 3 and 7 here. And you put 3 and 7 on top. Then you go to the 3. What does the 3 not have? The 2 and the 7. So you go 2, bracket 3, bracket 7. 1 second, Sean. And then you put the 2 and the 7 on top. And then finally you go to the last one. And you go, what does the 7 not have? Sorry? 2 and 3. And keep them in order if you can. We're going to use a similar method for this question here. Sean, you have a question?
Just what did you do again?
The question I did here a second ago, this question was a similar type question but a lot more basic. What I was trying to get was basically, I was trying to tell you is that you could start off with 3 regular fractions, and what you're going to do with the fractions is you're going to constantly put the other denominators beside them, top and bottom, until you have the same denominator on the bottom. See the way it's 237, 237, 237? Now they're all the same number. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. Now we're actually doing this question, okay? You come along with the 3 over 2, and the 2 looks across, and what does the 2 see at the same level as it? It sees the x and the x minus 1. And what you do to the bottom, you must also do to the top. Next section you're on the x section. Okay, so you're on where the x is. What does the x see on the bottom that it hasn't got? Sees the 2 and the x minus 1. So we're going to put the 2 in front of it and the x minus 1 behind it. And we can follow a similar system here. 2 and... the order isn't necessarily important. I always put the x's at the end, just from habit. Okay. What about the last one? X minus 1. What does it want beside it? Huh? It wants the x and the 2. So I put the x in front of it and the 2 in front of it. And then same thing, x and 2, wasn't it? So 1 times 2 times x. What can you tell me about the bottoms now? Huh? They all cancel, okay? Then multiply it out. 3x by x. 3x by minus 1. Alright, here's the tricky one, okay? See this minus? You see that minus there? It belongs to the... You can allocate it to the bottom or the top. We always allocate it where? Top. It now becomes a minus 1. Okay? What's minus 1 times 2? What's minus 2 times x minus 1? Minus 2x plus 2. Equals 1 times 2? 2 times x? 2x. A brief note when you're multiplying now, I see this mistake every summer, right? I see it every summer. Do you know when you multiply 2 by 3 by 5, yeah? What I want you to do is one step at a time. Do 2 by 3 first, scribble them out, 6. And then 6 by 5, 30. Make sure you multiply like that. You know when you have 3 brackets, make sure that's the way you multiply and you won't make any mistakes. Once you use them, scribble them out. Okay? That's what we did here, wasn't it? Minus 1 by 2. And then we got the minus 2. Then the minus 2 by the x minus 1. Okay, what type of equation do we have? Quadratic, okay? So bring everything over one side. 3x squared. What's minus 3x minus 2x? What's 5x? Bring the other 2x over the other side. And then minus another 2x will get me. Okay, and then bring the plus 2. Now, I could do this using a regular reference number. It's not that none of them are divisible by 3, so we can't divide by 3. Remember we used to do that at Guppy, we divide by 3 and they'd all be divisible by 3. This is not the case. I'm going to go with the safe option this time. I'm going to go with a minus b formula. Okay? Minus b formula is located on the front of your tables. Okay? Now, can anybody tell me what is the a value? Oh, sorry, I already did it. 3, b value, c value, 2. What's the minus b value then? 7. So, we're going to have 7 plus or minus the square root of minus 7 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2 all divided by... Anybody? Sorry? 2 times 3. Now, you're going to have 7 plus or minus. What do I always tell you to do? I've said it ever since the very first time I taught you a minus b formula. What do you always do? Circle that. Don't. And always make sure there's brackets, alright? So it should always be something like this. Brackets squared minus 4 bracket something bracket, another something. Now what do you do with these little bits here? Put a number in it. What number goes in there? -7. Another number then? 3. And following that? 2. Put it in the calculator. It turns out to be 5. Now, do you know when it turns out to be a number like 5? That means that you could have done it using the factorizing way. Sometimes you might get an answer like this. You might get an answer like 3√2. You haven't gotten wrong. It's just that it doesn't go. It isn't a whole number. So please bear that in mind. You can get an answer like that, and then let the calculator do the work for you. Okay. So 7 plus 5 over 6. There's two possible answers here. What's the first answer? 7 plus 5, which is 2, and the second answer?
7 minus 5.
Over,
6.
which is calculator 1/3. Okay. Got to make up another question for you, David. Might come in very handy. Okay. Pick me any two letters from the alphabet that aren't X and Y. S and P. S and P are the ones I heard, okay? Now, I'm going to make up a formula for you. I'm going to do P squared minus PS. I'm then going to do something much easier than that. I'm going to do 2P minus S. I'm going to make up two numbers in my head, okay? I'll do that now. Just don't say anything for a minute. Okay. He's really don't want help, he is. Okay. Now, yeah, I got it. Okay. I'm going to call that one 6. And this one's going to be 5. Alright. Now, usually you don't have the answers to begin with. I'm going to tell you right now, the answer is P equals 2, S equals -1. Because 2 squared is 4. And then 2 times -1 is plus 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. The other one is 2P would be 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. Minus S would be -1, which is +1 equals 5. Don't worry about that. All what you'd be told is, here's 2 random letters. Here's a solved question. How do you do this? Is the first equation a linear or a quadratic type equation? How did you know it was quadratic? 2 reasons. It's a squared equation, and your letters are multiplied by each other, which also means it's also a quadratic equation. 2 reasons. What about the second equation? How do you know it's a linear? Just no squares, okay? Now, I'm going to try and make my 5 look much different from my S. Can I change S for another letter? Because it's going to get really confused with that 5. Pick a letter. A. Okay, the question is now P squared minus PA, 2P minus A. The letters are irrelevant. What's relevant is it's a linear quadratic equation. Everybody got that? Now here's what we're going to do. Can anybody tell me the first step? You always start off with the linear, and what happens with the linear? Get one letter on its own. Which letter should I choose? You can't go wrong here, but one of them is considerably easier than the other. Why do you, and you'll always have the choice at ordinary level, is why do you get the A on its own and not the P on its own? If there's a number in front of the letter in the linear, it means that you shouldn't get it on its own. I'm going to show you what happens if you do get it on its own. You bring A over to your side and you get A plus 5. You get P equals A plus 5 over 2. You're going to have to sub that in back up here. And you've never ever subbed a fraction into another one before. That doesn't need to happen. So what we're going to say is that instead of getting P on its own, what we're going to do is we're going to get A on its own. Bring the A to the right, the 5 to the left, and what happens? Sorry, 2P plus 5. Everybody happy with that? 2P minus 5, sorry, yeah, right. And what happens when it's 2P minus 5? Where does that 2P minus 5 go now? Anybody tell me? Sub in to the quadratic equation, replacing with which letter? Replacing A. Now, here we go here. Multiply it out, and what do we get? P squared minus 2P squared. After that, And after that, over the other side. Now, p squared minus 2p squared. Now, have you ever solved a minus p squared or minus x squared quadratic in your life?
No.
Multiply by minus 1. Okay, ready? Now, what happens next? Okay, we'll be very careful with this, right? Reference number is a plus number. Everybody agree it's a plus number? That means when you have a plus number, it either has to be 2 pluses or 2 minuses. Minus 3 minus 2 is the correct answer because 6 and 1, one of them has to be negative, the other one has to be positive, and that doesn't work for a positive reference number. If it's a minus reference number, you have 1 minus, 1 positive. If it's a positive reference number, it's either 2 minuses or 2 positives. Okay? So that's where it's p minus 3, p minus 2 equals 0, p equals 2, and p equals 3. Sorry, skip the step. P minus 3 equals 0 and p minus 2 equals 0. You bring them over to your side and you get p equals 3, p equals 2. Now, I've accumulated 12 out of 15 or 11 out of 15. Where does my extra 4 marks come from? Sub it back into this equation here. I'll bring it down. So originally we had a equals 2p minus 5, right? So a equals 2 times whatever p is minus 5. How many different p values do we have to test out? So that's 3 and so 6 minus 5, 1, 4 minus 5. So a equals 1, a equals minus 1, p equals 3, p equals 2. Okay.